I'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Increase Your Network Visibility with the Nagios Monitoring Suite. My name is Andrew Rain, and I am a sales tech at Nagios. And the goal of today's webinar is that you'll learn a little bit about each of the products in Nagios's monitoring suite, as well as how to integrate them, why to integrate them, what benefits you'll get out of that. So during the webinar, be thinking about and imagining about how you can use these options in your organization. So first, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. And so at first, I'm going to be talking about the different solutions within the Nagios Monitoring Suite. There's 4 of them that I will cover. And then getting started with the Nagios Monitoring Suite, I'll talk a little bit about how to start using those products. So Network Analyzer, Log Server, Nagios XI, and Nagios Fusion. And then I'll also talk about how to integrate these monitoring solutions with each other. And then for a little bit of housekeeping, if you have any questions at any point today, please write them in the questions section and we will answer that in the chat. If we don't quite get to your question during the webinar, someone will follow up with an email afterwards to respond to your question. And at various points during the webinar, I will be asking you, the audience, questions, and you are able to participate by writing your answer in the questions section. So this webinar will be recorded and we will send out a link to that recording afterwards. That email with the link will also contain links to helpful information related to this topic. Now I'll get into a high-level overview of each of the Nagios solutions in the Nagios Monitoring Suite. I'll go ahead to our Nagios website, and here you can see the different solutions that I'm going to talk about today. I'll be talking about Nagios XI, Nagios Log Server, Nagios Network Analyzer, and Nagios Fusion. And so all of the tools together, if you integrate them all together, they're going to give you a very nice holistic view of the performance of your network if you're monitoring many things on your network. And then each one of these solutions on this screen, each of these 4, they have a lot of value on their own, but it can be really powerful when you put them all together and start monitoring everything in your environment. If you do that, there's not going to be a lot happening on your network that you're not made aware of by these solutions. So if you put them together, it's going to increase the visibility of your network, and all of the tools can work together and you can integrate them so that Nagios XI could become your centralized point of visibility and reporting and alerting for the metrics that are being checked across the different solutions. So first, I'll go ahead and talk about Nagios Network Analyzer, and I'll go right into the GUI here. So this is what you'll see when you first log into Network Analyzer. So Nagios Network Analyzer, it allows you to see where network flow is coming from and going to. It will tell you both the destination and source, IP and port. So Network Analyzer, it allows you to be a network detective. And Nagios XI, our general network monitoring tool, it can tell you how much bandwidth is being used for a particular, how much network traffic there is for a particular device. And Network Analyzer comes in and tells you the why. It tells you the ports that are being used as the source and destination port, the IP address of the source and the destination. So it can definitely help you know, give you a better picture of what is going on with that traffic. Knowing who is contacting your server and taking up a lot of bandwidth is very valuable. Sample use cases can include, it can include capacity planning. It can help you determine maybe someone is sending a lot of data outbound from our network that shouldn't be sending data outbound, and all sorts of things. You can see what is your quality of service baseline, what are the normal values, then you can know what is not normal. And on this home screen here, if you've uploaded any sources into Network Analyzer, you'll see the last 30 minutes of traffic in this diagram here. And then also there's the abnormal behavior checker. So any sources that you add in here for monitoring, basically Network Analyzer is going to start to recognize the patterns of how much traffic is, how much traffic is occurring with that source. And then if it's staying within those normal thresholds, it will stay green here. But if it notices some unusual traffic amounts, it will turn these time increments red for when that traffic is occurring. So for example, let's say you're an office that typically works from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and all of a sudden you start seeing gigs of data transferred across your network at 2 a.m. It's probably going to show red in here. And you can set up an alert as well to be alerted if there's abnormal behavior on your network for the things that you're monitoring. Network Analyzer, it can be used as a standalone solution if you would like, and you can also integrate it with Nagios XI. If you want to look at additional details on your sources that you're bringing, that you're monitoring network traffic for, you can click here. And then here you'll see a bandwidth graph, and you'll see, you'll see the data, whether you want it to be bytes, flows, packets, or bits per second. And then here you can click on any of these blue hyperlinks here to get to more detailed information. So I'll click this one here. And here I can see more information about what's going on with my traffic. And this is called a chord diagram here. So I'll expand this. And essentially what this is showing is how much traffic is going to and from different places. And so you can highlight any of these IP addresses, and it will show you how much data is going from one IP address and to the other IP address. So if you see the wider part of the pie going towards a certain IP address, that means the traffic, that's how much traffic is going to this one. And then if there was less of a pie piece on the other side of this highlighted orange piece of the pie, for example, that would mean that less traffic is going this way than is coming over this way. In Network Analyzer, you can set up alerts to be notified if the network bandwidth behavior is different than you would expect or different than you want. And you can go here to set that up, and you can pick what type of thresholds you want to use, and you can select what kind of ways you're going to get notified. And one of those options is sending your alerts upward to Nagios XI. That is a point of integration where you can have XI be your central point of alerts for Network Analyzer and XI. And you can do the same thing with Nagios Log Server as well. Next, I'll take us to Nagios Log Server. Here's that home screen that you'll see when you first log into Nagios Log Server. Log Server, it's a tool that you can use to be your central repository for logs to collect them. You can use it for archiving them. Maybe you work in an industry where you're required to hold on to your log data for a certain amount of months or years. You can use Log Server to help you with that. You can also query the data, you can use dashboards, and you can alert on the data as well. So this will work with pretty much any kind of machine-generated log data, whether that's servers, network devices, data applications, things like that. So much like how Nagios XI can run checks on almost anything in your network, Log Server can help you intake and parse pretty much any type of data in your network that you take into Log Server. In Log Server, you can view your data on dashboards if you'd like. So here I have a simple default dashboard. It's showing the amount of logs over time. And then here it's showing that same data in table format. And then I can click on any of these individual logs and start setting filters on the data to filter down just to what I want to see. So for example, I can see this type field, and then I can add a filter to match this value or to match anything that is not this value. So I'll go ahead and say I want to only see the events log type logs. So you can see that the data up here has changed as far as what logs it's showing. Here's that filter. It's showing must be event log. And then here in this column, you're seeing only events log information. So you could filter this down to things like failed Windows logins, things like that, that might mean there's some sort of issue going on in your network. You can also search for specific words here. So I'll look for all of the logs with the word error in it that are also events log type. So event log is shown here, and then you can see the word error showing up in these messages. And then you can also pull up any other dashboards that you've created and saved. I'll show you the top sources and type dashboard. So here I'm seeing the top hosts as far as how many logs they have sent into log server. Here you can see the top types. And then there's that events over time graph as well as the most recent logs coming in. And here is the alerts page. You can create alerts based on the log data that you're receiving. So here you could say something like, I want to be alerted on failed Windows logins. And then maybe you created, maybe you've created a query to drill down only to that data. And then here you would say how often you want to check the log data. So maybe you'll say every 5 minutes. You can say, I want to look back at perhaps the last 10 minutes. And then you can say how many failed logins are going to trigger a warning and critical alert. And then here are the different notification methods. And one of them is that you can send a notification up to Nagios XI and integrate with it. And you can send this using Nagios Remote Data Processor, NRDP for short. Two other things to note about log server. One is that it is based off of the ELK stack, and then the other is that it is a clustered solution. Next, I'll talk about our flagship product, Nagios XI. And this is what you'll see when you go to the home dashboard. To get devices monitored in Nagios XI, you would go to the configuration wizards. And so Nagios XI, it can monitor pretty much anything. If the data is exposed and made available to you, you could write a plugin to get it. If there's a wizard available for those specific type of metrics, you could use your wizards to monitor it. So it can be used for monitoring so many things all in one software solution. So each wizard, it is used to monitor a certain type of device or metric. And so here there's over 75 wizards that you can see, and they are used. There's wizards here for most things that most organizations are going to want to monitor. And we always love getting feedback from our clients to find out which wizards they would like us to work on developing next. And if you have something that you want to monitor that's very obscure, an option for you is that you can go to the Nagios Exchange to see if someone has written a plugin to monitor that device. And here you can see there's over 4,600 plugins that have been written, and more are added very often. So here you can click and see what categories of plugins exist. So there's lots of categories here. And if you have a specific plugin that you're looking for, you can always go here and look for it in the search box. These wizards make it easy to start monitoring devices in your environment. With just a few clicks, you'll be able to select settings and get a device up and monitored. And then once you get something up and monitored, you can use the bulk host cloning and import wizard if you have many of a similar, if you have many devices that are similar. So let's say you start monitoring a Windows server, for example. So I have one being monitored in my demo environment. So let's say you have 30 Windows servers you want to set up for monitoring. What you can do is say, I want to run all of these same service checks that I'm currently running on that Windows server that I just set up. And then maybe you decide that you want to get rid of a few service checks. You can uncheck them. And then here in comma separated value format, what you would do is paste your list of IP addresses and then perhaps a name that you want associated for each one. Then you'd go through the next few steps, and in 5 minutes or so, you'd have many Windows servers up and monitored. So this wizard makes it very easy to start monitoring large amounts of your environment. Once you get devices monitored, there are so many different visualizations in Nagios XI. So for example, here is a dashboard. You can create as many dashboards as you want in Nagios XI and add many different kinds of visualizations to them. And so here's a mind map visualization. People like using these to see the up-down statuses of hosts in a host group, and then seeing the status of the services. And then there's a lot of other great ones. They can be found from the home screen. If you download a trial, you can go in here and play with the different ones. I really like the graph explorer, and one of my favorite graphs is the multi-stack performance graph. So this one allows you to add data from many different hosts on the same graph, and it really helps you be a detective. You can kind of compare different metrics and see, what was going on with these metrics before an outage on your network. You can see correlations, as one metric goes down, does another metric go up, things like that. And so here while I was talking, I already created a graph of 2 different hosts very quickly, and you can customize this to the time period you want and the style that you want. So here's a graph that I've created, and then I would use this blue button to give it a name and add it to a specific dashboard. There's also reports that are available in Nagios XI as well, and those can be found here. We have a service level availability report where you can look at your SLAs for various items that you're monitoring. You can pick what you want your target to be. And then another report that I like to show is the capacity planning report. So this one allows you to look at past data and predict what the future data might be. So for example, I could look at the last 6 months of data for disk usage on a specific web server. And then Nagios will tell me what it thinks the next 6 months of data might look like. And here I can see the blue data is the past data, and then the gray data is the prediction of the future. So this can be very helpful for when you're trying to request purchasing amounts from your department for capacity planning updates that are needed. Next, I'll show you Nagios Fusion. With Fusion, you can view on one pane of glass Nagios XI, log server, and core instances. And in this demo environment, here you can see I have 3 XI instances that are being used, and you can view all 3 of them on this single pane of glass. So here I can see how many devices are up, down, unreachable, how many services are okay, in a warning state, in a critical state, and so on. In Fusion, you're always just a few clicks away from being able to drill right down into a very granular metric. It's very easy to set up as well. And so to drill down into, let's say, the problem hosts at US West XI, you could just click here, and it's going to take you straight to that XI if you're already logged in, and you can see the different hosts that are having issues. And then you could click any of these and go to the performance graphs and things like that to see what is going on. And then Nagios Fusion, it's perfect for having a single pane of glass. Reporting, however, would still be done at those individual XIs. Next, I have an audience question for you all. The question is, are you currently using some of the Nagios solutions? If so, which Nagios solutions are you using? So let us know, are you using XI? Are you using Log Server, Network Analyzer? Are you using Fusion? And you can respond by writing your response in the question section. So I'll give people time to answer. So I'm seeing a lot of people saying XI. Some of you are using Log Server. And I'm also seeing a few people using Network Analyzer as well. Great, thank you for sharing your answers. Next, I wanted to share with you about how simple it is to start using these other Nagios solutions that you might not be using just yet. So with Nagios XI, it's very easy to start monitoring devices. These configuration wizards that I mentioned, they will guide you through the process of getting your devices monitored. And then in Nagios Network Analyzer, to add sources, you'd simply go to this source tab, you'd select create a source, enter the information here, and then you'll want to make sure that the source that you are collecting data from, that it's able to point its data at Nagios Network Analyzer. And then for log server, we make it easy for you by giving you instructions for how to send your logs to log server. So if you go to add log source, there are instructions here for all kinds of common log types. So whether that's server logs, application logs, or even if you have a text file with logs saved in that. And then the process for getting devices into Fusion is very simple as well. And you would manage your servers by going to the server section, clicking Fuse a Server, and then you would give it the information it needs, and you'd very quickly have that server fused with Nagios Fusion. Next, I'll show you how to integrate these solutions together. So I'll go back up to Nagios XI. You can integrate Nagios XI with Log Server and with Network Analyzer. And what this would allow you to do is have Nagios XI be your central place for alerting and reporting for those solutions. And then to integrate those, Nagios XI has wizards for integrating them. So you can go here to integrate a Nagios Network Analyzer server, and it will guide you through that. You can also go to this wizard and integrate your Nagios log server instance if you would like. Next, I'll show you what some of the integrations look like within Nagios XI. So for example, if you've integrated Network Analyzer with Nagios XI, I can show you a cool visualization that you'll get in Nagios XI. So I'll go ahead and look at a firewall that I know I am monitoring in Nagios Network Analyzer. So I'll go here and look at this firewall's data. And if you've integrated it with Network Analyzer and it's set up for monitoring a Network Analyzer, you're going to get this extra tab that shows up here in host status details. And you'll click it and you'll be able to see one of those core diagrams. So this one, it's showing, so if you highlight these, you can see, different entries get highlighted in this table. You can go ahead and see how much data is going to and from different places. So here we can see that more data is going to 14.22 than is going to 14.11. So some data is still going to 14.11 though. You can tell what's going where by how wide each of the ends of this pie slice is. And then for log server, or for Network Analyzer rather, if you want to see some of the results of the check statuses, so you can go again to service status, and you can go back down to let's see, network analyzer. So here it's talking about the St. Paul firewall source. So here we integrated with the Nagios network analyzer using the wizard, and then here are different service checks that had been selected to run checks for. So you can see it's running a check on abnormal behavior, bytes, flows, and packets, and all the alerting is being done in Nagios XI. So you're having that one central place for alerting for Nagios XI and Network Analyzer. And you can also do the same thing or something similar with Nagios Log Server, where you could use the integration wizard and then have services set up in here for certain queries that you had created in log server, or you can write your own queries in the wizard within XI. So that would show up in this service status section as well once you set up those services for monitoring, and you would get alerted within Nagios XI as well if you set it up that way. So that covers what you'll get from Nagios XI through integrating with Network Analyzer and Log Server to make Nagios XI your central place for alerting. And next, I have another audience question for you. And that question is, what is a Nagios solution that you learned about today that you were interested in using in your environment? Maybe you're not using Log Server currently, but you are interested in starting to implement that. Go ahead and mention that in the question section. So I'm seeing a mix of people mentioning Log Server and Network Analyzer. Seeing a lot of people currently use XI. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And that's everything that I have to share with you today. So today you saw a general walkthrough of the different Nagios solutions. You saw how easy it is to start using them and also what it's like to integrate them together. So if you are interested in owning Nagios XI, Network Analyzer, Log Server, or Fusion, please reach out to us at sales@nagios.com to schedule a one-on-one demonstration of these solutions that is tailored to your organization. We would be happy to do that for you. We'll be sending out a link to the recording and links to some helpful documentation relevant to the topics that were covered today. And then for any questions that we did not get to answer during the webinar, someone will send you an email with a response to your question. And I encourage you to be thinking about how you might be able to use these Nagios solutions in your environment. Thank you everyone for attending and have a great rest of your day.